And welcome back. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi has welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa's proclamation for the Special Investigative Unit to probe visa-related issues within the Department of Home Affairs. The decision comes in response to reports about a Zimbabwean national, Kudakwashe Mpofu, fighting to prevent the department from deporting him back to Zimbabwe following allegations that he fraudulently acquired his permanent residence permit in South Africa. Motsoaledi confirmed the fraudulent nature of Mpofu's permit. Additionally, the minister addressed a circular issued by Home Affairs to Border Management Authority officials at entry points on proper protocols when encountering foreign nationals failing to comply with specific border categories. And the Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, joins us now. Minister, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just first start with this proclamations. There have been various responses to it, some of which, for instance, Kasatu is questioning why the SIU is only being asked now to expand its investigations to probe various suspected irregularities at Home Affairs. Given that the investigation will look into the past 2 decades, does this mean that these suspected crimes weren't noticed or considered widespread before?
Good evening, SABC. Good evening to the listeners and viewers. I'm not sure what the issue is here, SABC, because I need to give you the history of this whole thing. The gentleman called Pastor Bushir, or Prophet Bushir, obtained a fraudulent permanent residence in Home Affairs, and he used it to defraud his congregation of 102 million. The Hawks got him and arrested him, and they sent information to Home Affairs that he has presented the document with which he committed the fraud, and they are doubting its authenticity. Indeed, when we investigated, we found that it was authentic. At the same time, we also heard that the pastor who is being charged allegedly for rape in Quebeca, a gentleman called Omatoso, I started getting rumors that his permanent residence is also fraudulent. My question to this was exactly who else? Who else? How are these people having fraudulent permanent documents? Can they be the only two? Who else? Is it priests? Is it business people, etc.? While I was still pondering the question, I received a petition written by 14 members who are working in the permitting section. The permitting section is where all these visas and permits are issued. They write a circular to me and say, Minister, we demand that the counter-corruption unit must stop investigating our errors. Now, so that really scared me. Here are people issuing documents for people to come into South Africa or leave South Africa to establish business or sojourn here. They are telling me that we are committing errors in that work, and please, nobody must investigate them. That is when then I put together a team headed by the former Director General in the Presidency, Dr. Christian Lubisi. He was joined by the people who used to work for the Scorpions, but he was also joined by the investigators in the Zondo Commission, the recent, State Capture Commission. Remember, there were investigators there. They have just finished their job. So they joined this team, and I said, any visa or permanent or permit that was issued by Home Affairs from 2004, please review it. If it was issued legitimately in a correct way, why 2004? That is the year the Immigration Act under which visas are issued. That is the year in which it came into effect. It was passed in 2002. But came into effect in 2004. So I said, start right there and find out exactly what's going to happen. They came to me and said, Minister, unfortunately during that time until 2014, things were done manually, it will take a longer time. So please allow us to start in 2014 onwards, which is what they did, and they found quite a number of things that are disturbing. And they presented their report to the Portfolio Committee in Parliament. One of their recommendations was that we need to appoint a multidisciplinary team of people who investigate, forensic investigators, because they said we're not doing forensic, we're just reviewing visas. You need forensic investigators, you need data analysts, you need even senior counsels who are well versed with the laws of the country, which is what we did. And about 10 days ago, that team of multidisciplinary also went to present in Parliament. Then we said, from their findings, we think we need an SIU. That's why we wrote to the President that he must sign a proclamation for the SIU to come into the fold, because they've got more and better investigating powers and legal power more than the people we've hired.
So, Minister, what you're saying is that
the problem is about us to wait now.
So what you're saying is that you were proactive, and this is why we're at the stage we're at. How widespread was there suspicion of wrongdoing within the department? In the case of Kudakwashe Mpofu, for instance, what in particular raised the alarm that you even had to say to border officials that they have to look out for certain regulatory requirements?
No. That circular to border officials is a totally different thing, unrelated. Only that today I was dealing with them in the same press conference, but they are totally unrelated. The Kudakwashe Mpofu story was that he got a fraudulent permanent residence in the same way as Bushiri got it. But he got so emboldened, he now applied for citizenship. Now, the people who were investigating his citizenship are not the same as those who get permanent residence. So those who are doing investigation about citizenship, they are the ones who found that, no, actually this man is asking for citizenship with dirty hands. He's asking for it on the basis of a fraudulent permanent residence permit. Instead of Mr. Mpofu saying, oh, I'm sorry, what, he actually ran to court to try and challenge Home Affairs. And there was a story last week in one of the Sunday papers where he was really ridiculing Home Affairs about court cases where he has gone to court. Basically, he was praising himself. So I looked into the matter very closely and found that indeed this man's documents are fraudulent. And I immediately phoned the Premier of Northwest, because he used the fraudulent document to obtain a very high position in government, in the Northwest Development Corporation, Economic Development Corporation. He became a CFO, dealing with public funds, when actually he's a fraudster. That's very disturbing. So the Premier told me immediately they read that statement, they suspended him. I've just learned this afternoon, I've seen a statement after my press conference issued by the Department of Economic Development in Northwest. That man has resigned with immediate effect today.
Minister, as you say, it is indeed very worrying. There have been rumors in the past of syndicates that actually operate within the Department of Home Affairs. How true is this? Especially if you now have an investigation that looks into questionable granting of visas, citizenship, also looking into permanent residence permits, corporate visas, different work and study visas. So could the berth be as wide as syndicates who are either housed within or operate with people within the department to breach these things of immigration, citizenship regulations?
Well, so the majority of Home Affairs officials are honest, law-abiding citizens. That's why it is some of them who get these things. But remember that if you have got corrupt people in your department, they spoil everything, whether it's one or two, but the whole department looks rotten, even when the majority are okay. Now, the number of people who were found to be involved despite the Lewis report is a small number compared to the total staff of Home Affairs, the total human resource of Home Affairs, compared to the number of people who are doing this. But the problem is the actions, the acts are so heinous that it looks like there is nothing positive that's going on. So the Lewis report, after identifying all those people and realizing that this petition about errors is nonsense, these are not errors. These are deliberate things that are being done because people are being bribed. That's why then one of their recommendations was this: Minister, you need to dive deeper because we're not doing forensic. Look for a multidisciplinary team which has got forensic investigators in it, which has got data analysts, which has got people who have got skills in various fields, which must also have a senior counsel who, if possible, might help you to write documents to court in order to retrieve some of these documents. In other words, they said, we foresee a situation where there is going to be a need for retrieval of documents. This will be documents of people who have established themselves as business people, who have established big businesses, and those big businesses might need to close. So you don't think they are just going to fold their arms. They will run to court and pay some of the expensive lawyers in the country to fight that issue, as Mr. Kudakwashe tried to do. I have told you that immediately after he received the letter that this is fraudulent, he ran to court and tried to make himself a victim. Bushiruma also did the same thing, by the way. He rushed to court. The moment we told him that your document is fraudulent, we are going to take it back. So this time around, we have planned very well. And we then said, no, it's not only all these experienced people that must help. It's also the SIU, because they've got legal power to stop businesses. They've got legal power to close bank accounts. They've got legal power to grab the money and bring it back to the state. So that's why we want the SIU to
Minister,
get into the fray.
I do need to ask this question very quickly because we have run out of time. But I'd like you, if you can, to please expand more on the Firewall scandals. What improper or unlawful conduct is suspected of officials or employees? What is being looked at, especially in relation to the installation of the T200 firewalls?
Well, it is believed that it was issued in a fraudulent manner also, where there was corruption involved and collaboration between some companies and people in Home Affairs. And that's why also we are giving it to SIU. I don't really know the details, but there is a belief that people who were supposed to do the firewalls in the department, there was collaboration in the awarding of the tender.
All right. Thank you so much for your time and sharing that information with us. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.